Welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look back at games I covered about 6 months ago and let you know whether they stayed in my collection or I culled them. This month we're looking back at games I covered in January of this year, 2022. We've got 7 games on the list, including several crowdfunding ones, and don't forget to stay for the end of the video where you see the contest and who wins a free game. But let's jump right into it and find out which of the games had shelf life. So our first matchup is Defense of Procyon 3, a solo or cooperative or competitive game with asymmetric factions, versus Radlands, a 1v1 quick competitive card game that I designed a solo variant for. Looking at Procyon 3 first, this one, like I said, has a solo where you control 2 factions against these aliens, these other 2 asymmetric factions, or a co-op mode where you split the control of the factions between 2 players. And this one's really solid. There were some weird kind of rule things that they had to fix up after the game published that I pointed out, but overall with those, the solo and co-op work really well. The asymmetric factions are really interesting. I do wish there was a way to play as the aliens instead of just as sort of the humans, but they're both pretty cool. And each faction uses cards in an interesting, different way and has different like resource management, all of which I enjoy, but I did end up getting rid of this one. It is really big and it's a little bit more complicated than I'd prefer for teaching somebody else co-op, so I didn't really see much opportunity for me to play at co-op. But it's a good game. I have other kind of asymmetric military slash faction games that I would rather play than this one. And then we have Radlands. This is a really quick, like I said, 1v1 sort of like skirmish game through cards. You're both trying to destroy the other people's outposts, their bases, with these different people and events you play. And this one's funny. Even though I designed a solo variant for it, I hadn't played it in a good while, so I actually had it on my culling pile and I'd like put it up for sale. But then on a whim, I brought it to Peter's house for a game night when we only had 2 people, and we played a few games, and yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, this game's amazing. I forgot how good it is. It's so quick, it's so inexpensive and affordable. The art by Manny Tremblay is amazing. And I think my unofficial solo variant for this one turned out really well. So this was getting called, and then I played it, and now it's definitely a keeper. It's right back on my shelf. So Radlands wins the battle in that round over Defense of Procyon 3, I guess a smaller one out. And our next matchup was Sentinels of the Multiverse, the new definitive edition of the game, versus the upcoming Skytear Hordes that was on crowdfunding earlier this year. So first looking at Sentinels of the Multiverse, this is a cooperative game where you have these varied heroes going against varied villains in varied environments, very modular. And there's another one that I had a complicated relationship with. I played the heck out of and owned basically everything for the original Sentinels of the Multiverse, but then I played it a bunch on the app. And this is just something that happens for me when I play games too much on an app. I kind of like lose appreciation for them. Like part of the tactile experience and like the act of actually running things in the game is part of my enjoyment. So like when I play on apps, I lose that and I kind of get bored with the games. And also the original Sentinels, to be fair, had some issues with like some of the heroes and some of the villains and some of the environments. Like some things just weren't fun or were like kind of busted or you can only play one certain way. So I did eventually sell my entire collection. And then the new edition, the definitive edition, came out and I bought it. And now I bought Pledge for Rook City, the next set. And, you know, it's still the same game, and the parts I love are still there. Some of the fiddly bits of, like, running the game are still there. But the big thing is they have rebalanced the characters so that, so far, at least all the ones from the base set are exciting to play. They're all cool, and they all have fun combos. And so far, none of the villains feel, like, busted. None of the environments feel overly punishing. So it's basically the same game I loved, but tightened, but made better. And in the modularity, every deck so far is now viable instead of it being some things I would never play because they weren't fun for me. Then the next game is Skytear Horde. This is kind of like a tower defense survival game in the Skytear IP universe. It is for solo or 2-player, and you are playing cards like units and spells and stuff to defend against these invading units until you eventually survive long enough to reach this boss and to defeat them. What I played in the preview, I loved for solo play. I thought it was incredibly engaging. It reminded me a lot, actually, of like Magic the Gathering and my old Magic playing days, with like all the combos and things coming out and the fun like interplay of enchantments and bonuses and spells and attacks and all that. So really enjoyed it. I did find co-op to be pretty poorly balanced, but that's something they were actively aware of and working on, and this is a while ago, so they're still working on the game. So yes, this is one that I definitely wanted to go in for. They said they would send me a review copy, but if they hadn't, I would have pledged it anyway. I hope they fix two-player play, but even if not, I think solo play was awesome. So Skytear Horde is one I'm really excited for, and that means we've got a double keep, both Sentinels and the upcoming Skytear Horde, games I want to play a lot more of. And our next matchup is Lanzerath Ridge, the solo-only 4th entry in the Valiant Defender series by David Thompson, versus Townsfolk Tussle, the 1 to 4 player boss battler against 4 ascending difficulty bosses. And looking at Lanzerath Ridge first, as you might know, I'm a big fan of the Valiant Defenders series and David Thompson's designs in general. And yeah, Lanzerath Ridge is another one where you are desperately defending against German encroachment in World War II. You've got this really interesting management of your units, of machine guns and the ammo for those machine guns. It is an incredibly tense game and might be, so far from what I've played, I actually just got the retail version of the game. So spoiler, this is a keep, by the way. But it might be the best one in the series. I still really love Castle Itter for its simplicity and how quick it is to set up. This one's a little bit, takes a little bit longer to set up. But yeah, I mean, this one is very different from the previous 3. It's probably the most unique in the series so far. But the combat is incredible. It's straightforward. The way the Germans activate is very simple to run. It is not a game where you're going to be spending a lot of downtime with the AI. But your choices are so tense. The combat is crazy. The machine guns are so fun to use because you can just spray tons of fire, but then you run out of ammo really quickly and then you're done. So yeah, this is a really exciting one, and I'm going to do another video soon, so really happy to play more of this one. And then next we've got Townsfolk Tussle. This is a boss battler, but unlike a lot of sort of KDM style boss battlers, KDM being Kingdom Death Monster, this one does not have a big campaign that takes hours upon hours to play. Instead, it's a series of 4 progressively tougher boss battles as you level up and get new equipment and stuff. And the entire thing can take 2 to 3 hours. It's pretty quick. And this one I was a bit mixed on. I like some of the leveling up, although it can be a little swingy what you level up into. I do love that when you defeat the bosses, you get a unique card from them and get to level up with that. I think the tactical combat is pretty interesting. I like the way they use the terrain and locations. But randomness can, of course, rear its head quite a bit. Sometimes you waste your entire turn. I think this is honestly better as a solo game or maybe 2-player. I think when you're controlling more characters, wasting your turn and not doing anything is better. I wouldn't personally play this one with a full 3 or 4 people where a lot of them might not be doing things for a long period of time. But it's tense, it's exciting, and it gets that great boss battler experience in the quickest package, or one of the quickest packages out there. Again, compared to things like KDM, or the upcoming Aeon Trespass, or Oathsworn that just delivered recently. All those are huge, epic games. This one is nice and bite-sized. But they sent me a review copy only in lending, and then I had to send it on to somebody else. So I didn't have the chance to keep a review copy of this one. And I didn't love it enough to get myself. It's good. I'd be happy to play it again, but I don't need to own it personally. So I guess that's a win for Lanzerath Ridge over Townsfolk Tussle. And our last game is not a matchup because I had an odd number this month. So this is just Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor, which is a solo and cooperative 4X, a game of exploration and conquest and combat. And I like a lot in this one that has a really cool activation system you're seeing right now where you use these little gems to take actions. So you kind of have micro actions, so in co-op the game flows very quickly. You've got cool items and leveling of your heroes, some pretty good asymmetry between the factions, and that asymmetry is going to get way better with the upcoming expansion that they crowdfunded recently, because the new factions are even more different than any of the old ones. They really have their own unique mechanics. But this game has really cool combat. The exploration that you're seeing right now, where you have to move the little locations around and pick where the tiles are and kind of defend yourself against these crazy bosses. Those are really cool. And just a lot of other cool stuff going on. There's a great epic game with incredibly tense decisions. But kind of like Procyon 3, this is just a little bit larger than I prefer to keep in my collection. Yeah, it's just me as a gamer right now and kind of my gaming life. It is tough for me to keep a game that is giant, that takes a long time to play, and that is more complicated than my family can sit down for. I tend to gravitate towards quicker games and more solo-friendly games or family-friendly games, except for the ones I play with my game group, but then I usually give those to the members of the game group since I'm not playing them otherwise. So Uprising, great game, but it is going to be a cull. So there you have it, a slightly better month than last month. Let's find out which of you read The Crazy Way My Mind Works and won the contest. And here we go. So in Group 1, Radlands, the correct answer got 55% of the votes, so very confident there. 28% of you thought I would call both games, 10% thought I would keep them both, and only 7% thought I would only keep Defensive Procyon 3. So pretty strong showing for Radlands there. Sentinels of the Multiverse got 46% of the votes. A lot of people know I love that one. 33% got the correct answer, keeping them both. 15% thought I would call them both, and only 6% thought I would keep just Skytear. And for Group 3, 40% incorrectly thought I would call them both. 38% thought I would keep Townsfolk Tussle. You can see this is the part of the bracket that messed people up. 15% thought I would keep just Lanzerath Ridge, and only 7% thought I would keep both games. And finally, our little grab bag fourth group quote unquote, 51% thought I would call Uprising, the correct answer, and 49% thought I would keep it. So almost a perfect 50-50 split there. And we had a bunch of people who got 6 out of 7 games right. Daniel, Earl, Jeff, Peter, LP, Edgar, Melinda, Mel, Brian, Jack, Charlie, Jose, Wei-Yen, Bracken, Helsa, Kevin, Keith, Neil, and double Ryans. They got 6 out of 7. Were there any 7s out of 7s? Perfect runs. And yes, there were 3 people, Andrew Luxton Riley, Raphael Pebon, and Kikia H. And Kikia didn't want to be entered in the contest, and Raphael is a Patreon supporter, so he gets double entries. I think Raphael's won at least once before. Andrew might have as well. So we're going to go to the die roller. Andrew has a 1/3 chance, 1 or 2 on a d6. Raphael has a 2/3 chance, 3 through 6. Let's see who gets it. And here we go. 6. I can't remember which one was which. Oh, Raphael gets it again. What is this, your 3rd win, maybe? All right, so great job, Raphael, Kikia, and Andrew. Great guess as well. And to everybody who entered the contest this month or just watched the video, thank you so much. We'll see you again in another month for September, looking back to, I guess it's February games at that point. But for now, good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.